You did not arrive here by accident. There is something ancient in your blood that recognized these words before your eyes even saw them. An echo, a whisper, a vibration that called out from the forgotten halls of your soul. Hermes, the silent messenger, the scribe of the gods, the architect of sacred knowledge, has summoned you through time, not to entertain you, but to awaken you. Because in 3 days everything around you could change, if you remember the secret. And this isn't just any secret. This is the forbidden code that allowed kings to rise, cities to fall, and entire destinies to shift, not by force, but by the precision of divine will. It has always been hidden in plain sight, cloaked in riddles, symbols, and myth. But you, dear one, you are finally ready to see. Comment, I am ready to remember what Hermes left behind, if you're ready to embrace this truth. Hermes Trismegistus, the thrice great, was not merely a man. He was a bridge between heaven and earth, between thought and manifestation, between soul and structure. His teachings were not written for the mind alone. They were carved for those who could feel, for those who could close their eyes and still see. His words weren't just symbols, they were maps, encoded with frequencies, with spiritual fire, with celestial alignment. And the forbidden secret he carried was not about controlling others, but aligning your inner self, so precisely that the outer world bows without resistance. 3 days is all it takes, because time bends for the one who remembers who they are. And what you're about to remember is that reality was never random. It was waiting for your command. The ancient temples of Egypt knew this. The scrolls buried beneath sand and silence still hum with this knowing. In Atlantis, before the fall, this knowledge was law. They called it the law of reflection, the mirror of the divine. Not magic, mastery. Hermes taught that everything seen is born of what is unseen. That before a bird takes flight, there is a current. Before a storm brews, there is a whisper. And before reality moves, there is you. Not the small you, not the one bound by fear or titles, but the sacred self, the spark that was never truly separate from source. And if you can feel that even now, even faintly, then you already stand at the gates of transformation. All that remains is for you to step through. But understand this. Hermes never gave this secret lightly. It required purification. Not of the body, but of perception. It required you to unlearn the lie that you are powerless, that the world is happening to you, when in truth, it is rising from you. The moment you remember this, you cease reacting and begin creating. You stop chasing and start commanding. The forbidden secret is not a tool to control others, but a sacred path to become so in tune with the divine frequencies that your life becomes a symphony conducted by your spirit. And in 3 days, if you follow, that symphony can echo through everything around you, your relationships, your finances, your health, your fate, not with force, but with frequency. Most will not understand this. They'll scoff, scroll, forget, but not you, because something inside you has already remembered, a shiver down your spine, a sudden breath that throb in your heart. That is the soul speaking. That is Hermes knocking. And when he knocks, it is not to ask for entry, but to tell you the door was always open. What you feel now is not curiosity, it's recognition. You felt out of place in this world for a reason. You weren't meant to follow its rules. You were born to remember the ones that shaped worlds. And now, as we begin this journey together, prepare to feel more than words. Prepare to see through time, to activate the divine architect within you. Because this isn't just a story, this is a summons. There is a silence, deeper than quiet, one that doesn't just still the lips, but stills the identity. And this silence is the beginning of remembering. The modern world thrives on noise, distraction, and the illusion of urgency. It wants your attention because your attention is power, but Hermes knew that true power begins not in expression, but in withdrawal. To step back from the illusion is the first rebellion. And so the first day in this sacred 3-day rite is a ritual of retreat, not out of fear, but out of clarity. You are not cutting yourself off from the world. You are cutting the strings that made you dance to someone else's song. Because only in silence do the ancient codes buried in your unconscious begin to surface. And in this space, your mind, once an echo chamber of the past, becomes a temple for divine instruction. You may feel discomfort rise in this silence. That is natural. You have been fed stimulation for so long, your system will panic in its absence. Thoughts will race, emotions will shout, you might even feel emptiness. But stay with it. That emptiness is not a void. It is a doorway. Behind it lies the source code of your reality. Every belief, every assumption, every story you've unconsciously agreed to live, they will appear, one by one, not to punish you, but to free you. You are not your beliefs. You are the one who holds them, and once you can see them, you can choose again. This is why the first step to control the outer world is not force, but purification, and silence is the fire that burns away the illusions you never chose, but inherited. Hermes taught that the universe does not speak English, or Latin, or any spoken tongue. The language of the universe is frequency, and frequency is generated by thought imbued with emotion. That is why your suffering repeats. That is why cycles return, because somewhere within, a frequency has been playing like a forgotten song stuck on loop. And if you dare to stop, to truly listen, you will hear it. Not with your ears, but with your intuition. That's the moment reality begins to lose its grip. That's the instant the outer simulation stutters, because the program cannot run without the energy of your belief. When you see it for what it is, it breaks. And when it breaks, you reclaim your authorship over what comes next. On the second day, the sacred word returns, not mere speech, but intentional invocation. The ancients did not chant for superstition. They chanted because they understood sound reorganizes energy. Vibration gives birth to matter. When you speak with presence, when your words align with your soul's truth, you do not just affirm, you shape. This is not about saying what you don't believe in, hopes it will become true. It is about installing new frequencies, declaring a reality so powerfully that it overrides the ghosts of every old memory. You speak, not to convince the world, but to command your field. Every phrase, every breath becomes sacred. This is the alchemy of the Logos, the divine word. And when you speak from your essence, reality cannot help but adjust itself to match. Do not be surprised if resistance grows louder on this day. The old self, the programmed self, will not go quietly. It has lived through you for years, perhaps lifetimes. It fears annihilation. It will tell you this process is futile. It will try to seduce you back into autopilot. But Hermes left this warning. Only those who persist beyond the veil will see the light of truth. And you, yes, you are meant to pierce that veil. Keep speaking, keep declaring. Even when your body trembles and your mind wanders, keep going, because on the other side of this threshold is something so sacred, so real, that your entire nervous system will recognize it as home. And that recognition? That is power returning to its rightful place in your hands. And on the third day, you see, not with physical sight, but with inner vision, the ancient technique of holding your desired reality in vivid imagery, not in hope, but in embodiment, is not fantasy, it is quantum instruction. When your breath slows, when your heart aligns, and your vision becomes feeling, the field shifts. Reality listens, your imagination becomes a blueprint. This is not New Age fluff, this is spiritual technology, Hermes called it the fire of thought made flesh. You imagine not to escape, but to create. And in those 10 minutes of sacred seeing, you are broadcasting to the matrix, "This is who I am now," and the matrix must obey, because it has no will of its own. It only responds to the one who remembers they are the architect. If you've made it to the third day with devotion, not speed, not desperation, but sacred stillness, then something ancient in you has already begun to stir. You're not just doing exercises, you're remembering your true nature, the one who dreams the world into being. For centuries they tried to erase this knowledge. They burned scrolls, silenced sages, called it heresy, called it madness. But the truth can never be fully buried, because it lives in you, in your spine, in your breath, in your silence. And now, as the 3-day rite reaches its final phase, you are standing at the gate where very few have dared to pass. You are no longer simply reacting to life. You are transmitting it, and what you choose to emit now will ripple outward, bending the very laws of form to match the new signal of your soul. In this final sacred phase, you are asked not to work harder, but to become clearer. The cleaner your frequency, the faster reality shifts. Hermes didn't seek to change the world through struggle. He adjusted the inner ratio of thought, emotion, and vision. And the world responded. This is not a metaphor. It is vibrational law. The law of mentalism says all that is external is already internal. So when you embody the new belief, I am abundance, I am harmony, I am the source, and combine it with deep emotion and clear imagery, you send out a command far more powerful than any action. Reality doesn't respond to effort. It responds to alignment, and in this moment, you are being invited into full alignment with the divine mind that lives through you. But here's the paradox. The more deeply you activate this power, the more shadows may arise. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're doing something real. When the inner light shines brighter, it illuminates the old cobwebs, the hidden fears, the buried guilt. This is the final test. Do not run from it. Welcome it. Every doubt that surfaces, every emotion that shakes you, is simply an echo of an outdated identity being seen for the first time. Let it rise, let it tremble, and then let it go. You are not here to battle your past. You are here to transmute it, to alchemize pain into purpose, scarcity into sovereignty, fear into fuel. This is what Hermes called sacred fire, the inner energy that no longer hides from shadow, but walks through it as the master of light. You may not see immediate shifts in your outer world, but the field is already in motion. What you think is delay is actually divine architecture unfolding in perfect sequence. Energy is moving, unseen threads are weaving. Your job is not to panic. Your job is to hold the frequency. Don't chase evidence. Become the evidence. Walk as if it's already done. Speak as if it cannot be undone. Feel as if the world is already rearranged in your favor, because it is. This is the moment where many give up, right before the shift. But Hermes taught, the final hour is the test of the eternal soul. And if you can remain steady here, you are no longer a seeker of truth. You become a carrier of it. This is why the third day is not about doing more, but about anchoring, holding the new vibration as your new baseline. No more apologies for your power. No more shrinking in the presence of other people's doubts. No more waiting for permission to be who you already are. The one who commands reality from within. The one who speaks and mountains move. Not because you forced them, but because your voice aligned with cosmic law. Your thoughts are no longer mere noise. They are instructions. And when those instructions are rooted in the truth of who you are, the universe, the simulation, the mirror, whatever you wish to call it, has no choice but to reflect the new you. And now, something irreversible begins to happen. The old patterns lose their grip. People start treating you differently. Opportunities flow in strange and perfect ways. Your environment shifts without effort. But it's not because the world has changed. It's because you've returned to your origin. You've remembered your station as co-creator, as divine mind in human form. This is not arrogance, it is sacred remembrance. And the more you live from this space, the more impossible it becomes to return to the old way. The veil has lifted. The illusion of powerlessness has crumbled. You are no longer at the mercy of life. You are the pulse behind it. There comes a moment in the awakening process when you stop seeking proof and start becoming the proof. Not because you've figured everything out, but because something deep within you no longer needs the illusion of control to feel safe. You begin to realize that control in the external world was never true power. It was compensation for the lack of alignment within. The real secret of Hermes was not to manipulate the world, but to master self-resonance, to become so coherent within, so attuned to divine law, that the outer world cannot help but follow suit. This is what it means to truly control everything around you, not by domination, but by becoming a silent force that shapes the environment without resistance. Like gravity, like light, subtle, unseen, yet undeniable. When you walk with this understanding, your presence speaks louder than your words. You no longer have to prove your worth, convince anyone, or force outcomes. Why? Because reality begins to adjust in your favor simply by your being. This is not mysticism without foundation. It is vibrational physics. Every person carries a frequency. Most people emit theirs unconsciously, based on old programs. But when you begin to consciously curate your inner state, you are tuning your entire life to a new channel, one that brings different people, different opportunities, different timelines, and the more consistent your signal, the faster the world must catch up. Not out of obligation, but because that's how reality works. The field cannot contradict a frequency that is embodied. You might notice in this phase, certain people disappearing, old habits falling away, environments that once felt familiar now feel heavy, foreign, even toxic. This is not loss, it is shedding. A spiritual molting. The identity that attracted those things is dissolving. And so the echoes of that identity dissolve with it. It may feel lonely, but only because your field is making space. Every time you elevate your consciousness, you signal to the universe, I am ready to meet what matches this new version of me. And the universe listens, it always has. It's just that now you're speaking in a language it understands, frequency, no longer begging for change, but becoming the vibration that commands it. Hermes called this the return to the seat of the soul. A throne that had always been yours, but was buried beneath fear, shame, and the illusion of separation. Most people try to control outcomes without ever addressing the root frequency they emit. They wish for love, but vibrate rejection. They crave abundance, but carry the blueprint of lack. And so life becomes a contradiction. A cycle of wishing and resisting, but once you return to your inner throne, the contradiction ends. Your vibration becomes congruent, and reality bends to match. This is the true forbidden power. Not to change the simulation from the outside, but to rewrite the code from within. And this rewriting is not just for your benefit. When one person remembers the truth, they emit a frequency that reminds others. Your very presence becomes a transmission. You walk into a room and something shifts, not because of your appearance or charisma, but because you are carrying coherence in a fragmented world. People don't always know why they feel different around you, but they do. You've become a living temple, a lighthouse for others, still lost in the fog of forgetfulness. And this is the secret impact of mastering the mental plane. It's never just about your own reality. You become a node in the collective matrix. radiating a signal of remembrance for others to align with. So ask yourself now, who do I become when I no longer believe I am powerless? What happens to my relationships, my finances, my body, my purpose, when I emit the frequency of divine authorship? This is not fantasy, this is design. A design Hermes left encoded in his teachings, waiting for souls bold enough to reclaim it. And you, dear one, are reclaiming it now. Every breath, every word, every still moment of awareness is building a new field around you, and that field is already shaping the next version of your life. Even if you cannot see it yet, keep walking. You're not becoming powerful, you are remembering that you always were. There is a point on the path when what once felt mystical becomes natural, where ancient truths that once seemed distant, coded in symbols and rituals, begin to flow through you as if they had always belonged to you. And the reason they feel familiar is because they do. The knowledge of Hermes, the principles he whispered across time, are not foreign scriptures, they are echoes of your own divine architecture. You are not learning, you are remembering, and in this remembrance the veil thins. Suddenly, the chaos of life becomes comprehensible, the challenges become precise reflections. The synchronicities accelerate, because the moment you see the world not as solid matter, but as pliable mind, everything changes, and the secret, it was never hidden from you. It was hidden by you, waiting for the exact moment you were ready to receive it. What you are beginning to feel is a shift in origin. You are no longer identifying as the character moving through life. You are becoming the author who writes it. Hermes said, "As above, so below." But modern minds forget what above truly means. It does not mean the sky, it means consciousness. The higher realm is not in the clouds, it is in awareness. And when you rise into awareness, your thoughts begin to carve reality, as surely as wind carves stone. Every idea becomes a seed, every emotion water, every decision light. And when all three align, intention, emotion, action, the world cannot help but reflect the design you've activated. This is how the sages created miracles without effort, not through force, but through coherence, through alignment with the laws that govern unseen forces. Most people live their lives bouncing between reaction and resistance, unaware that they are feeding the very frequencies they claim to want freedom from. But you have stepped out of that loop. You are no longer feeding the simulation with unconscious loops. You are coding it with deliberate design. And the first design is always your identity. Who do you believe you are? Because the universe will never give you what you desire if it contradicts who you think you are. If you believe you are unworthy, the world will reflect rejection. If you believe you are the source, the world will reflect obedience. And this is not spiritual punishment or reward. It is law, a precise mathematical mirroring of inner signal to outer scene. That's why changing your life begins with changing your self-perception, not at the surface level, but at the root. Hermes taught that every soul carries a divine imprint, a sacred geometry of power, intelligence, and purpose. But over time, that design becomes buried beneath trauma, programming, and fear. The task of the initiate is not to create power, it is to uncover it, to remove the false layers. To strip away the lies that say you are small, broken, or incapable. These were never yours to begin with. They were inherited echoes, passed down like spiritual debt. But debt can be cleared, identity can be rewritten, and your field, your energetic presence, will broadcast whatever version of you you dare to fully embody. So now feel this truth in your bones. You are not the outcome of your past. You are the architect of your present. And the future is a canvas awaiting your frequency. Even time bends to the one who vibrates outside the loop. Even obstacles bow to the one who walks in alignment. This is why transformation doesn't require endless effort. It requires presence. It requires awareness so total that every word, thought, and step becomes deliberate. When you vibrate from this place, life moves in rhythm with you. People sense it, reality senses it, and what once felt random becomes responsive. Because the moment you stop living from reaction, the world stops reacting to you. And now, as you stand in the middle of this awakening, you may feel both empowered and unsettled. That is Sacris. It means the old shell is breaking. The illusion of powerlessness cannot survive where divine responsibility has entered. You are no longer allowed to shrink, to hide behind the excuse of circumstance. Because you've seen the truth. You are the cause, not the effect. The center, not the edge. The code, not the glitch. And every day you live from this knowing, the old patterns dissolve. The karmic loops untangle, and the simulation, once a cage, becomes your kingdom. By now you may feel it. The strange calm that follows the storm of remembering. It is not the calm of passivity, but of profound recognition. A stillness that says, I no longer chase, because once you realize that everything outside of you is being shaped by what's inside of you, the struggle loses its grip. This is not resignation, it's reclamation. You stop chasing people. You stop begging for love, opportunities, or validation, not because you've given up, but because you know that the field is intelligent. You know that everything is responding, precisely, obediently to the signature you're broadcasting. And now that your signal is becoming clear, clean, radiant, life is adjusting to meet you, not slowly, not randomly, but like water finding its level. This is the divine order Hermes spoke of, the secret law that governs the invisible. The universe is not chaos, it is reflection. You do not attract what you desire, you attract what you normalize, and normalization is frequency. It's what you allow into your field every day without question. The thoughts you repeat, the emotions you recycle, the roles you continue to play. If your nervous system is more familiar with anxiety than peace, then peace will feel like a threat. If your identity is wired for survival, abundance will feel uncomfortable. This is why true change is not only mental, it is somatic. It must be felt in the body. It must become safe to receive what you ask for. Otherwise, you will unconsciously repel the very blessings that are trying to reach you. So now the question deepens. What do you believe you're allowed to receive? What are you willing to hold without guilt, shame, or self-sabotage? The answer is written, not in your journals but in your life. Your reality reveals your unconscious permissions, and if you do not rewrite them, no technique, no manifestation, no affirmation can override the core belief you've embedded. This is why Hermes taught not just the law of mind, but the practice of embodiment. It is not enough to think differently. You must live differently. Sek, as if your words are commands. Move, as if the field is watching. Rest, as if you're already supported. That is the posture of someone who knows the truth. Energy precedes experience, and your energy has become the architect. The more you align with this truth, the less you are shaken by appearances. Chaos may still swirl. People may still project their pain, but your inner world, once a mirror of fear, becomes a sanctuary of knowing. And from that knowing, you act. You speak. You choose not to fix the outside, but to express the inside. Because you are no longer performing for reality, you are redefining it. This is where the power settles into your bones, quietly, irrevocably. No need for rituals, crystals, or performance. Just the pure, unshakable frequency of I am. That is the frequency Hermes encoded. That is the divine name of the Creator, echoed in every sacred tongue, and now it lives in you. This is why the third day, the final day, is not about doing but being. It's not a conclusion, it's a new beginning. a new baseline, a new normal. And from this baseline, everything will start to move differently, not because the world has changed, but because the lens you view it through has. The secret was never about changing reality. The secret was becoming someone who reality could no longer ignore. Someone whose frequency was so clear, so resonant, that the entire matrix of matter had to rearrange to mirror it. And this, dear soul, is where your next reality is born. Not from wishful thinking, but from embodied truth. So hold yourself differently now. Walk slower, breathe deeper, speak from the source, not the wound. Because you are no longer someone trying to become powerful. You are power remembering itself. And when the world meets someone who has remembered, everything around them changes, without effort, without force, simply because it must. At this point in the journey, a profound truth begins to settle into your bones. You were never separate, not from power, not from divinity, not from creation itself. The illusion of separation, the veil that made you feel small, broken, or forgotten, was never real. It was a dream passed down through generations, reinforced by culture, echoed by fear. But dreams can dissolve. And now, your eyes are adjusting to a greater light. You begin to see that control isn't about domination, it's about harmonic influence. You don't need to convince life to work for you. You only need to harmonize with the field of truth that was already operating in your favor. This is the sacred control Hermes mastered, to influence everything, not by touch, but by tuning. And the tuning fork is your being. Your presence, your thoughts, laced with feeling, your words soaked in clarity, your energy steeped in trust. These are the levers of change. The blueprint of reality is soft clay in the hands of one who knows they are the sculptor. So look around, the world hasn't transformed yet. Do not panic. It is always darkest before the field completes its rearrangement. Time is not a delay. It is a buffer for integration. Trust that the vibration you are anchoring now is planting seeds in places you cannot see. Invisible threads are weaving your alignment into material form, and the more you trust, the more you allow, because trust is not passive. It is a vibrational signature. It tells the field, I am no longer resisting. But here's a final test few speak of, the test of identity death. When your vibration begins to truly change, your old self, the one built on trauma, limitation, and survival, starts to unravel. And that unraveling can feel like loss. You may find yourself grieving, not because something has gone wrong, but because something false is dying. The stories you told yourself for years, the roles you played, the protections you wore like armor, they don't survive in higher frequencies, and that's terrifying, because even pain can feel like home, if it's all you've ever known. But Hermes left a message for this exact moment. To ascend, one must shed the skin of the old world, and so let it fall away. Let the masks dissolve. You are not here to preserve an identity, you are here to embody truth. And when the truth becomes your resting state, a miracle begins to unfold. Not a loud, dramatic miracle, but a quiet, irreversible one. You start noticing that people treat you differently, that chaos avoids you, that doors open with less knocking. You begin to recognize that what you once called coincidence is now precision. You walk into a room, and the room adjusts. Not out of intimidation, but because your coherence commands resonance. You've become a frequency others can feel, and without speaking, you remind them of what's possible. This is the unspoken service of the awakened, not to preach, not to prove, but to become the living proof. You radiate remembrance, and remembrance is contagious. So now, hold this next breath, like it's your first, as a new being. Let your past fall behind you like ash. Let your stories burn. Let your timelines collapse. What remains is you, unfiltered, unshaken, unbound. And that version of you does not need to force anything, because they are the origin, the emitter, the one the universe waits to follow. You've done the work. You've passed through the fire. You've entered the sacred stillness. And now the field is listening. What you emit next becomes law. So now we arrive, not at the end, but at the threshold, the final breath before the veil dissolves completely. If you've followed this path, if you've embraced the silence, spoken the sacred word, and held the vision of your new self, then you have crossed a line most never even see, and once you've crossed it, you cannot return, because once the soul remembers its origin, the illusions of limitation, fear, and scarcity can no longer hold. They may still whisper, but they cannot command, because you now stand where Hermes stood, between the seen and the unseen, between the realm of form and the infinite field of creation. And from this place, you realize you were never meant to obey reality. You were meant to compose it. Your life is no longer a product of the world. It is now a transmission to the world. You walk as a frequency. You speak as a current. You think not as reaction, but as design. The forgotten secret of Hermes was never about gaining control over others. It was about dissolving the illusion that control was ever outside of you to begin with. The universe, the simulation, the mirror, the field, it was never withholding. It was only waiting. Waiting for you to stop begging and start broadcasting. Waiting for you to stop performing and start embodying. Waiting for you to stop asking for permission and start speaking as the author. And here's the final gift. It was always this simple. The teachings were never hidden, only encoded. Hidden in plain sight for the eyes that could finally see. Hermes never locked the gates. He left the key in every breath, every symbol, every sacred whisper passed down through time. And now that key is in your hand. You've seen the machinery behind the simulation. You've touched the sacred silence. You've reprogrammed the frequency, and whether the world changes tomorrow or in a month, it must obey, not because of superstition, but because vibration precedes form, and your vibration has become sacred. So here in this final moment, take a vow, not to be perfect, not to never doubt, but to remember that everything you seek is already echoing within you, that you are not becoming powerful, you are power awakening from sleep. You are not learning how to create, you are relearning that you are the blueprint, the cause, the coder. So, carry this truth like armor, let it be your silence in the noise, your stillness in the storm. The secret is not something you need to find anymore. The secret is you, clarified, amplified, vibrating in alignment with divine law. And now, speak as if the world were listening. Think as if creation were awaiting instruction. Walk as if every step was sacred, because it is. The field is listening. The mirror is ready. The world is already bending. If you've made it this far, drop a 100 in the comments. It shows you are part of the 1% that's improving every single day.